Hey there, happy Friday. It's Olivia. So, if you caught Monday's conversation with David K. Richards about microschools, you know we covered a lot of ground. If you have not listened to that episode yet, pause this bonus, go back. It's season 5, episode 5. It's called Why Microschools Offer Big Dreams and Real Results. Listen to that and then come back to this episode. Here's what's been haunting me in the best way possible. Most of us are waiting for district approval, waiting for the right curriculum, waiting for someone to give us permission to do what we already know our students need. And while we're waiting, we're stuck in this impossible situation where we're asking kids to be autonomous, creative thinkers while we operate with zero autonomy ourselves. But what if there's another way? What if entrepreneurial thinking isn't about starting a business? It's about reclaiming our agency. It's about asking, what can we do about this right now? Instead of who's going to fix this for us. In this bonus episode, I'm breaking down 3 big ideas from that conversation that you can actually use this week. I'll speak to why the operating system itself is broken, how we can think entrepreneurially within our own constraints, and how to bring back the intimate knowledge of students that our massive systems have designed right out. So let's dig into what's really staying with me from this conversation, because by the end of this episode, you're going to identify one place where you've been waiting for permission, and we're going to figure out what you can do about it right now without asking. This is Solutions Teaching Strategies, the podcast that extends education beyond the classroom. A show that isn't just theory, but practical, try it tomorrow approaches for educators and caregivers to ensure every student finds their spark and receives the support they need to thrive. Hey there, happy Friday. It's Olivia. And if you caught Monday's conversation with David K. Richards, you know we covered a lot of ground about microschools, education reform, and what happens when we stop treating children like products on an assembly line. So I've been sitting with this conversation all week, and there are 3 powerful ideas that keep circling back in my mind. Things that I think apply whether you're considering opening a microschool, working in a traditional classroom, or supporting learning in any capacity. So grab your coffee and settle in, or head out for that walk, and let's dig in. The first thing that hit me hard was David's language around the operating system. He didn't say that the education system has problems. He said that the operating system is fundamentally broken. And here's why that matters. When we think something has problems, we try to fix it. We throw more money at it, we add more technology, we implement another program. But when the operating system itself is broken, you actually need a complete reboot. David shared his fascinating example about Montessori schools, these beautiful classrooms with multi-age learning, self-direction, peace and conflict management, kids thriving. But then he experienced frustration when he went in as a consultant to these schools and found that they were also running in a top-down manner where teachers had very little voice. As David said, the cognitive dissonance was stunning. And this is what I want all of us to sit with. We cannot ask students to be autonomous, creative thinkers in systems where the adults have zero autonomy or creative freedom themselves. That is the parallel pedagogy I mentioned in our conversation. If we're organizing adults like cogs in a machine, we're going to produce children who think like cogs in a machine. So here's a reflection question that you can think about this week. Where in your sphere of influence, your classroom, your school, your district, are you seeing this disconnect? Where are we asking kids to do something we're not modeling for the adults? Because until we address that foundational operating system issue, nothing is going to change in the way we want. The second idea that I've actually had a lot of people reach out about is this idea that David described, the shift from educator to entrepreneur. Now, I know that some of you might be thinking, but Olivia, I didn't become a teacher to be an entrepreneur. I became a teacher to teach. And I hear you, but stay with me here. David talked about working with his first cohort of microschool founders, 7 schools launching in 7 states. And the number one transformation they experienced wasn't about curriculum design or classroom management. It was this fundamental mindset shift from compliance to autonomy. These were educators who had been trained for their entire lives to follow the rules, to wait for permission, to implement someone else's vision. And suddenly, they're being told, this is your school, this is your vision, you get to decide. And you know what? It was terrifying. When David said, it's not a linear process and we have to be adaptable, that opened up the world of entrepreneurship for his founders. But here's what I want to pull out of this for all of us, not just people opening schools. For me, entrepreneurial thinking is about agency. It's about seeing a problem and asking, what can I do about this? Instead of who's going to fix this for me. Whether you're in a traditional classroom, a charter school, or homeschooling your own kids, there is space for entrepreneurial thinking. There's space to ask, what do my students need right now? What's the creative solution I can implement tomorrow? How can I adapt this prescribed curriculum to serve the humans in front of me? You don't need permission to care more deeply. You don't need permission to try something different within your 4 walls. You don't need permission to build relationships with families. So here's my challenge. This week, identify one place where you've been waiting for permission. One place where you've been thinking, if only they would let me. And instead, ask yourself, what's the smallest step I could take right now without asking? The third idea I want to unpack is something David said when he was talking about resistance and pushback. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, when charter schools became popularized, people would give him a hard time when he was at parties. They would argue about politics and funding and all of these big systemic issues. And his response was consistently, ask a mother or father what that school did for their life. They don't care about the politics. If that school changed their life, the politics don't matter. Now, I'm not here to debate charter schools or vouchers or any specific policy. That's not the point. The point is this. We've spent so much time arguing about education in the abstract that we've forgotten to center the actual lived experience of children and families. We talk about standards and accountability and achievement gaps and funding formulas. And those conversations matter. I'm not dismissing them. But somewhere along the way, we stopped asking the most important question. Is this child thriving? Does this family feel seen, heard, and partnered with? And here's what I think we've lost in our massive bureaucratic education system: that intimate knowledge of the humans we serve. And what's crazy is in a microschool with 15 children, you know every child. You know their siblings, you know what their caregivers do for work, you know what lights them up and what shuts them down. You know when something's off at home. In a school with 600 kids, that's much harder. We have to try harder because we've really systemized ourselves right out of relationships. So here's a question that I'm sitting with, and I hope you will too. How can we bring back that intimacy, that deep knowing into whatever context we're in? Maybe you can't restructure your entire school. You probably can't. But can you create a smaller community within it? Can you loop with your students for 2 years instead of 1? Can you do home visits? Can you create an advisory system? David mentioned that when Summit Public Schools started doing advisory programs, 14 kids for 4 years, building a family, it was innovative, but now it's becoming normal. That's how change happens, not all at once, but through people saying, I'm going to create something small and excellent, and I'm going to prove it works. Okay, so I've talked about three big ideas. First, the operating system's broken. We need to model for adults what we want for kids. Second, entrepreneurial thinking is about agency. What can we do right now? And third, center the families. Bring intimacy and deep knowing into our work. So here's what I want to leave you with. David's vision isn't that microschools will replace everything. He's thinking maybe 5 to 10% of schools in 10 years. But that 5 to 10% will be laboratories, they'll be proof of concept. They'll show what's possible when you put children and families at the center. And then, this is the beautiful part, other schools will learn from them. Just like that district learned from Summit Public Schools and started implementing advisory programs and college prep for everyone. Innovation doesn't have to scale to 100% to matter. It just has to exist and be excellent. So whether you're inspired to look into microschools for your own family, whether you're thinking about starting one, or whether you're committed to transforming the traditional system from within like I am, there's a role for you in this reimagining. The question isn't, what's the perfect solution? The question is, what's our next step? That's it for this bonus episode. Thank you for being part of this community of educators who refuse to accept this is just how it's always been done. If you want to learn more about David's work, head to changemakereducation.com and definitely check out his podcast. He's having conversations that will challenge and inspire you. I'll see you back here on Monday with Dr. Rebecca Winthrop. She's going to speak to her book, The Disengaged Teen. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep reimagining what's possible. Solutions Teaching Strategies is created, produced, and edited by me, Olivia Wall. Thank you to my older son, Benjamin, who created the music playing in the background. You can follow and listen to Solutions wherever you get your podcasts, or subscribe to never miss an episode and watch on YouTube. Here's my invitation. Send me an email at solutionspodcast@gmail.com and tell me one thing from this conversation that's shifting your thinking. More importantly, tell me what your next step is. Are you going to visit a microschool? Are you going to propose an advisory program? Are you going to stop waiting for permission and just try something different on Monday? Whatever it is, I want to hear about it. Because this work we're doing, reimagining education to actually serve children, it doesn't happen through perfect 10-year plans. It happens through brave educators taking the next right step. Don't forget to tune in every Monday for the best research-backed coaching and teaching strategies you can apply right away to better the lives of the children in your care. Stay tuned for my bonus episodes every Friday, where I'll reflect and share connections to what I learned from the guests that week. See you then.